It's not fake at all.
You're living in the matrix and you understand the mechanisms, the systems. Let's use this word system. You understand how the systems are working, and then you're able to tune them, as you said. Well, even tune yourself to be in harmony with them. Is that an accurate way to speak it?
Basically, yeah. And, you know, keep in mind, this didn't come to me overnight. I mean, I started when I was 22 with Tony, and then, you know, here's the power of this. Okay, I want you to think of, like, holy crap, could that even really happen? Okay, so I was working with Dr. Pulos, me and my business partner, and we were phoning corporations and stuff, and we were finding out, oh, they already had Dr. Pulos, and that's the only person that we had on our roster, right? Was Dr. Pulos or nothing. So they said, well, who else do you have? And we said, well, we don't have anything else, right? And so my business partner and I used to teach street dancing, right? You know, the pop locking and stuff like that, right? And he was a magician, right? He had all these magic tricks and this cool stuff. So we developed this keynote speech called Overcoming the Crippling Effects of Negative Thinking, because he used to be in a wheelchair, and he used a lot of these matrix principles to heal his joints and everything. He had rheumatoid arthritis and ankylosing spondylitis. He walked out of the wheelchair. The doctor said it was impossible. He walked out of the wheelchair using Dr. Pulos. Dr. Pulos was curing stage 4 cancer patients with his hypnotherapy. So, and I witnessed the stuff going on with Rob. So Rob walked out of the wheelchair, and we started doing these, you know, these seminars and stuff. And I said, you know what, Rob, let's go down to the beach and let's really figure out what we want out of this. Like, how would we know? How are we ever going to know if we've really did it? How do we know? So he said, okay, let's see. Well, we'd probably be working with Tony Robbins, right? And he's like the best guy, so work with Tony Robbins. Okay, what else? Well, we'd probably be like written up on a magazine or a newspaper or something like that on the front cover, right? Okay, front cover, magazine or newspaper. Okay, cool. Well, we'd have like corporate sponsors, right? Like they'd pay for everything, our clothes, travel. They'd send us all over the place. They'd give us stuff and free stuff, right? That would be cool. Yeah, corporate sponsors, that'd be awesome. You know, we'd probably be doing like seminars for like these big corporations, you know, like these big employee places. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, what else? Let's see. We'd be on Oprah Winfrey. Yeah, that'd be cool. Be on Oprah Winfrey. Okay, cool. Let's see what else. We would donate $1 million to charity. Okay, great. Donate $1 million to charity. Now we just surrendered. You know, we just started doing the stuff, and we were doing stuff with the Vancouver Board of Trade and, you know, World Trade Center and whatnot. And all of a sudden we get this call, you know, from the Vancouver Board of Trade downtown. And they said, you know, hey guys, listen, we want you to, you know, we want to interview you guys. You know, it's just, you know, you're doing some great things around town. We want to do an interview. So we go down and get interviewed. And right at that time, Tony Robbins was coming in town. And they wrote the article. And the two people that they made reference to in our article were Michael Jordan and Tony Robbins. And those two guys were both on our vision board, because Michael Jordan's just amazing what he's done with branding and, you know, his sponsorships. And so what happened was that they said, well, you know, we got some news for you guys. And I was like, well, what's the news? They said, well, you're going to be on the front cover of the paper, you know, comic book duo, Look to Conquer, the Power of Positivity. So we were on the front cover for this broadcast. So then all of a sudden we get this random phone call, right? This is Darren Little. I go, yeah. You know, we're calling from the Magellan Group. We represent Tony Robbins. We've heard some good things about you guys at the Vancouver Board of Trade. Tony Robbins is coming in town for the Firewalk. We're wondering if you can open up. And I'm like, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a prank call, right? So we end up opening up for Tony for this Firewalk in Vancouver, and they gave us the Firewalk seminar as a bonus. And we put on our own seminar, and we had 28 corporate sponsors that paid for everything. They gave us suit jackets and suits, and they flew us to Club Med, and they did our balloons and our chocolates and, you know, all of our promotional material, our posters, our everything that we had in our campaign was all supplied by our corporate sponsors. And even the trips to Club Med with the airfare and all the rest of the stuff, it was amazing. Now, what happened after that was that Rob had met with a group. He was keynote speaker at this one event, and they found out more about his story, and they were with a television program called Northwest. Okay. So so the lady's listening to Rob telling the story, and she's like, "Oh my God, we got to get you guys on Oprah. This is just unbelievable." Right. So, you know, the path is a lot easier than you think if you believe. Okay. Now, all of this stuff, the first part, getting to the Tony Robbins part and the corporate sponsors part and the front cover of the magazine part, only took 11 months. It was only 11 months. Okay. Now, once I realized the power of this and how it works, I applied the same thing to my finances. So in an 11-month period of time, I went from making $5,000 a month to making my first $1 million. Okay, and driving a 996 Carrera and a 740 Albeamer and having $2 million properties and a vacation property and all the rest of this stuff, and $1 million cash in the bank. How'd that work? How'd that happen? Okay, it all happened by understanding, surrendering my pride and my ego. Okay, and tapping into the vibrational frequency of success. Success is a radio broadcast frequency. People don't even understand this. Success is a radio broadcast frequency, no different than a radio station. Now, when I was working for Pulos, he said, you know, this is really wild. You know, like most people's realities are, my reality is a lot different than most people's, right? So I'm sitting in my office this one day, and Pulos, you know, Darren, can you come into my office, please? And I'm like, okay. So I go in his office, and he'd sit there in his chair, and he'd kind of stare up at the ceiling. Like he's looking into this crystal ball or something, right? So he says, Darren, I'm standing in front of his desk now. Do you realize that you are where you are today based upon your thoughts 5 years ago? Okay. And I'm standing there. Part of my consciousness leaves my body, goes back 5 years, and I see video of me writing on a piece of paper, I am vice president of an international company doing international business. And there's me. I was vice president of this company. So he says, if you want to know where you're going to be 5 years from today, just look at your thoughts today. And the same thing happens, right? And I'm a millionaire. 5 years from that point, I'm a millionaire. So at that moment, I saw the past, the present, and the future all simultaneously just within less than a minute. And I was just completely flabbergasted of what just happened. But it was at that point that I became congruent with my understanding that the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between past, present, and future. And if you can focus on your preferred state of being in the future, you can trick time. And I learned how. And that's how I pull the stuff off that I do. So somebody says, how can you go from from nothing to in 30 days to 165,000 cash in the bank? You can when you learn this stuff. And that's what I learned.
This is the quantum, right? I mean, this is this realm of what I'm referring to as the unknowable. And yet you've been tapping it enough that it's tune-inable. At the very least, listening to you, there's the ability, as you say, with the goosebumps and all the rest, to tune into it. And then apparently at that point, you're in the matrix, right? You're Neo. You're able to do things that other people can't even imagine as possible.
Yes, absolutely. Like I rolled out this one deal this one time, and I'd never done this before. I didn't have a track record in it or anything. So I negotiated this deal to lock up a domain for $1.1 million, just for the domain name.
For a domain name.
Yeah, just for the domain. Like you buy it for $10 at GoDaddy. So I had to go in there and have the guy that owned the domain name believe that we were going to actually pull the deal off, right? And I had to sign a contract with me as the CEO and say that you're going to get this $1.1 million. And, you know, it was like I had 4 months to come up with this money and I didn't have it, right? But all we wanted was that piece of paper. That's what we needed. Okay, so I left there, and not only did I have to raise the 1.1 million for the domain name, I had to raise another $6 million for working capital to launch the deal, okay, with no experience, okay? But I believed that I'd pull it off, okay? And I literally I told my vision to anybody that would listen. And they got so excited about my vision that they all started pulling out the checkbooks, you know, 25,000, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, 50, 200, 50, 100, 120, 50, 7.1 million in 4 months. Ping, right out of thin air. Now, how the frick is that possible? I had no experience at doing that type of deal, but I did have experience in manifestation, right? How you can literally make something out of thin air, right? So, but as you get better, you get what's called data. Okay, so here's an example. Somebody says, I go, so Timothy, give me an idea. I mean, what's your vision? I mean, how much money do you want to make? I want to make $1 million per month, right? Well, I mean, give me an idea. What level of income are you accustomed to making right now? $10,000 a month. You know, that's way too big of a jump, right? You got no data in your subconscious. You got no data. So here's what your subconscious mind does. Yeah, right. And nothing happens, okay? So what I typically, you've got data for 10K, so you can say, okay, I want to double my income. You got data for that. Now at 20,000, you're on a different pedestal, right? So now you can go from 20 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to $250,000, million, or $250,000 to $500,000, $500,000 to $1 million. There's steps all the way up, and you got data for each one of the steps. But to go from 10 grand to $1 million a month, no data.
Yeah, and the belief, right? The belief is not able to bridge what it knows through that unknowable. You're right, that's truly unknowable. And it's so unknowable that it's, if I'm hearing you correctly, you can't manifest that because you don't actually know enough about it, right?
I mean, here's how simple this is. Okay, let's say that I got something and I'm going to make $1,000 commission off of, as an example, okay? And I want to say I want to have a $100,000 month, okay? So what I do, so that means I need 100 sales, right, to make 100,000, right? So 100 sales. So that means at a 10% closing ratio that I need 1,000 people to watch whatever it is that I'm going to do. And in order to get 1,000 people to show up, I need 2,000 registered. Those are just numbers. 2,000 registered, 1,000 show up, 10% closing ratio, 100. So then what I've got to do is I've got to create some massive bonus thing that makes that whatever the entry price is seem like it's peanuts. So with all of the bonuses and everything else, and you can get in for now for $1,203.95. You know what I mean? So what happens is that people, there's a race to get in. Because I say I'm only taking 100 and that's closed. I'm not taking any more than that. Right?
So that's the data, right? I mean, I could hear you reverse engineer, right? How that formula is going to work. And then now you're broadcasting it out to others, sharing the data, extending even more data than what you're asking for in terms of value return. And you're saying that's where they're lining up because they know they're getting far more than what you're gonna put the price at.
What basically happens is as you get more into this realm that I'm talking about, there is the stories that come out are so shocking that they're hard to comprehend. I got one 17-year-old kid that made $35,000 his very first month in business. 17 years old. You know, Single moms, 2 kids, 10K first month. Part-time workers, 13,000 first month. You know, people that have never marketed a day in their life before, 10, 15, 20 grand the first month. One guy got out of prison, made 28,000 his first month. 23-year-old construction worker, 26,000 his first month. How the heck's that possible? Some people go for 15, 20, 30 years in this industry and never make that kind of money. How could somebody do it in 30 days? You just learn these strategies and
Got it. Got it. Wow. I mean, this is a quantum level, right? And the definition I've been working with lately on that word quantum is change. Does that apply for you as well? That quantum is change. It's the flow. It's the river, right? It's not static in a way that we can truly grab it. We more so have to learn to swim in it.
Really, what it comes down to is your preferred state of being. And most people never take the time to figure that out, right? So that's the defining position in it. You've got to understand your preferred state of being. Now, when you talk about the unknown, okay, so everything for me stems back to only 2 words. 2 words are responsible for the process, okay? What if?
Okay, got it.
What if money flows to me easily and effortlessly? What if my phone is ringing off the hook with incoming calls? What if leaders are contacting me from all 4 corners of the world? What if every person I talk to wants to join my business? What if every day I wake up, my Facebook inbox is filled with people that want to join my business? What if I'm making more money than I've ever made in any company my entire life?
What if?
What if? Now, most people focus on what if it goes wrong? What if I can't make any sales? What if I go bankrupt? What if they say no? So that's what they get, right? So you just have to train your belief, but you can see that, like when I'm doing that, when I say, you know, what if money flows to me easy and effortlessly, and, you know, or I'll start it with that, and then I bridge over into what's called a proclamation statement. So to be like, money flows to me easily and effortlessly. Every day I wake up, my Facebook inbox is filled with people that want to join my business. And as I'm going through it, it goes up to a crescendo, right? Right? I'm infinite, I'm abundant, I'm immortal, I'm universal. Soon my dreams will be part of my past. Now, if your dreams are part of your past, you're on the other side, right? If your dreams are part of your past, you're looking backwards at your dream. You're on the other side. That's how you can start to trick time and trick your subconscious mind. So then I'll typically, if I want to tap into that vibration, if you can imagine Rocky on top of a mountain, right? It would finish off with yes, yes, yes. And then you feel this rush go through your body. And that's your wave. That's when you're really tapped in. And these are all learned skills. These are all learned skills. But once you've mastered them, it's easy to steer your ship in the matrix. Once you understand how the game works, how the game controller works in the game, and how it's all made up, and what your goal is in the game, most people have never seen the matrix. They don't know what it looks like. I show my students what the matrix looks like. They go through my advanced leadership training. And once you can see the matrix, oh my God, everything's clear. Because now you know what your goal is in the game itself, in the matrix game, right? Most people never escape the victim state quadrant. They never escape. They die in victimhood. They die in victimhood.
Right, with regrets. Yeah, with regrets.
Well, it's more like, oh, You don't know my story. Or that's the victim state of no power. Then there's the victim state of the chip on the shoulder. Yeah, well, you're gonna show me. You can't show me. What do you got? Yeah, right. That's the chip on the shoulder victim. So once you understand how that all works, it's very easy to look in the mirror and figure out where you're at, right? At any point in time in the game, because the variables that we have are choice and emotion, right? You know, those are some variables that, you know, in the spiritual realm, those don't exist, right? You're just like sparkling pixie dust, right? But in the physical plane, you know, that makes an infinite number of choices, an infinite number of entry points, right? With emotion, you get a whole scale, and you get a whole scale of choice. I bet you didn't think you were going to get into a conversation like this today.
It's a long pause because I'm being the sponge, man. I am the sponge. I am the sponge, right? Like I'm the spoon in the Matrix. This is fascinating, Darren. I mean, I'm almost speechless. I'd like to do what we can do, because I'm sure you've worked with some couples implementing these techniques. So anything we could, but I have a question first, so don't go there yet. But I'd like to say that I'd like to bring us there. Like, what advice would you possibly offer couples, right, who, number one, have this self-awareness that these things must apply individually to some extent, I'm imagining, but now, right now, you're a couple. Now you're in marriage. Now you're with a business partner, and it becomes a two-for dynamic. Right, it's even more than that. But before we go there, there's a question I've been wanting to ask you, and I think now's the time. Like, what's next for a guy like you? You know what I mean? Like, you got the dials to yourself with the variables of your choice, your emotion. You've got the dials to the matrix. And I'm starting to hear that there's literally no separation between this external, internal. It's all one, right? What's next for a guy like you? I mean, where do you go from where you're at? Where do you go next?
I mean, that's a really good question. I wanted to at least go to the part in the game where I could see that it was a three-dimensional holographic video game. I wanted to go that far in the matrix, which I did. Now, what happens then when you get to that level, your vibrational frequency gets super high, and then you feel like you're going to actually just disappear. Then what happens is the screen peels open like an onion and goes, and then you can see into infinity, and there's rows and rows and rows of these big, huge television screens, and each one has different reality. That's third eye activation. Then you get to the point where that's as far as I could get, because the soul wants to leave the body to go to these other realities, and then you get these body slams, and the soul comes back into the body, and the nervous system, and you can't sleep. So once third eye is activated, when you close your eyes, you got no eyelids. You're looking through another eye, right? And that is a trip. So I'm grateful that I at least got to see it. I believe that the Egyptians actually had mastered that, and they could go into those other realms because they're very focused in their hieroglyphics on the third eye, right? And, you know, on the portals. So I really believe that they had that they mastered that. They mastered the pharaohs and the pyramids and everything else. They mastered that stuff. At least I got to see it. But in the third eye activation part, because I wasn't, you know, I didn't have any training to know how to turn it on or turn it off, I couldn't turn it off. And it lasted for about 3 weeks. And when you have no sleep, your body starts to go into sleep deprivation and micro sleep. And the only place that you can get any type of rest is in water, in a bathtub. And you get maybe 20 minutes, 15 minutes of becoming the water, and then you get a little bit of rest, and then you're back up again, and you're, you know, so it was very trying on my body. And but as far as, you know, I'm a deal maker, you know. I love doing deals. I've got some great business partners and people that are very, very good in business. And so I may launch my own wine label. That's a possibility. That's something I've got a potential deal there that I may do. One of my business partners graduated from MIT, so he's we love doing deals. We're deal makers. Another one of my business partners is very into systems, online systems, and so we're putting together a training vault that teaches a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about. But my ultimate goal is I want to be able to teach children this, because I think that our school system is really designed to keep the people stupid for 18 years so that by the time they graduate, they know nothing, and they're forced to go into debt to get a piece of paper that's really going to do them no good. And unless they're, a doctor or something like that. But for the most part, a Bachelor of Business degree or Bachelor of whatever is just a crock. It's a way to put people in debt and rip society off. But kids are actually in the most sponge state of learning, and they could be in a position whereby 12 to 15 years old, they were already financially free, and by the time they graduated, they were all millionaires. Well, the elites that run the world don't want that. They want slaves. It's just like the Matrix. It's just like the Matrix, where those people are in those pods, right? Those pods are the homes. It's no different. And those people that are, that run the world, right? They could care less. They could care less, and they don't want to lose their power, so they keep the people broke as slaves. And if they can keep the energy vibration low enough through dumbing them down through newspapers, magazines, and television, and all the propaganda, and focus on the lowest vibration, which is violence, death, destruction, and war, they can keep the people in a fear zone, right? So tornadoes, earthquakes, tragedy, all these type of things that, and they plug the people in. They plug the people into that. So when Neo's talking about unplugging, you have to unplug from the shit first. So you got to cut off all newspapers, all magazines, all television news. 6 o'clock, 11 o'clock news is out of your reality completely. And you've got to start to pump in personal development into your lifetime daily. Like you literally have to engulf yourself into personal development. Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, Dennis Waitley, Zig Ziglar, Deepak Chopra, people that, Jack Canfield, and people that are really, Dr. Wayne Dyer is one of my favorites. And you have to basically take responsibility.